So new comments by former President Donald Trump and by Republicans here in Michigan show to what lengths Republicans will go to overturn legitimate election results. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video, subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So if you've been sitting there worrying about the future of democracy, well, join the club. I live here in Michigan, one of the swing states that was won by Joe Biden, that has been targeted by Republicans and by the MAGA crowd as one of the states that could overturn the legitimate election of Joe Biden. I mean, everybody's talking about the recent comments by Donald Trump, where he revealed publicly and at a rally that he wanted Vice President Mike Pence to essentially throw out the election results and just install him as president, despite the fact that he lost the election by a lot. But we all know that Donald Trump is crazy, right? What to me is of bigger concern is just how the Republican Party has become so enamored with the MAGA movement that everywhere you look, you're seeing efforts to undermine democracy. And you can see that right here in Michigan with some recent comments by a candidate for governor, no less, as well as a candidate for state senate.
If you see something you don't like happening with the machines, if you see something going on, unplug it from the wall. The ideal thing is to do this peacefully. That's ideal. But the American people, at some point in time, if we can't change the tide, which I believe we can, need to be prepared for walking away.
What you saw earlier were the comments by them as they were talking to supporters, urging them to become poll workers in the election. Now, poll workers, as we all know, are the people who are supposed to remain politically independent with the sole goal of making sure that everyone's vote is counted fairly. But that's not what these MAGA Republicans are looking for. They're looking for people who will pull the plug on voting machines if they disagree with the direction the election's going, and who are willing to bring guns to the locations where votes are being counted to try to intimidate people. It's worthy of note, by the way, that both these actions are felonies. So essentially you have a candidate for governor of Michigan, along with a candidate for state senate, urging people to become poll workers so they can commit felonies. To their credit, the Secretary of State here in Michigan, who's a lawyer, actually the former dean of the law school where I attended, and who's an election law expert, as well as our Attorney General, have taken strong stands that this type of behavior could lead to prosecution. And that's the kind of message that needs to be sent. You see, the problem is these MAGA Republicans believe that they can get away with overturning the legitimate vote of people. As of now, we still do not have prosecution being mounted against Donald Trump and many of his supporters who did everything they could to essentially mount a failed coup against the United States. I mean, the evidence just keeps mounting that January 6th was not a one-off event, that it was actually part of a long campaign on the part of Donald Trump and his supporters. A campaign that, frankly, is not over, to try to undermine American democracy and to try to take control of the White House no matter how the Americans vote. If this doesn't worry you, then I don't know what will. You should be especially concerned after Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema made it clear that they were unwilling to make a change in the filibuster to try to pass legislation that would protect people's right to vote. This as state legislatures led by Republicans across the country are doing everything they can to make it harder for anyone they disagree with to vote. What's more is that there's a bipartisan effort to try to pass a change in the Electoral Count Act. That's the legislation that Donald Trump is claiming would have given Mike Pence the ability to overturn the results of the election. And as some people have pointed out, the changes that are being proposed might actually allow Republican leaders at the state level to submit fraudulent results to Congress. And because of this change, Congress would have no ability to address this fraud. The problem is, frankly, that democracy relies upon people supporting the idea of democracy. That no matter what laws we have in effect, no matter what guardrails we have for our system, if a substantial group of the American public lose interest in supporting democracy, democracy really cannot survive. And that's the situation that we find ourselves in right now. My concern is that after the behavior of Senators Manchin and Sinema, that many Democrats are going to kind of throw up their hands and say, you know, it's not worth supporting Democrats because they can't get anything done. But the truth of the matter is, serious election reform legislation passed both the House and received support of 48 Democratic senators from all parts of the country and from President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, showing that if Democrats had just a slightly greater margin in the Senate, we would have passed this legislation. That, along with the Build Back Better bill and the PRO Act, which would finally provide some reform that will empower labor unions in the United States. So now is not the time to be throwing up our hands and getting discouraged. Now is the time to push just a little bit harder so that hopefully in this election, despite all claims to the contrary, that we're able to hold on to the House and increase our margin in the Senate just by a little bit. And if we do that, then we'll finally be able to see the agenda that we as Democrats want. Well, if you like this video, you might want to check out this other video that I have on the backlash that Joe Manchin is facing for his votes against the people of his state and the people of this country. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.